Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Nikon TV. My name is Mark Cruz. I'm your host from Nikon Canada, and I'm here with two professional photographers. I'm really happy to have them. One back returning to the show is Michelle Valberg. She is an Ottawa-based photographer, and she's one of a select few users, professional photographers that were selected to use the Z cameras this coming month, as well as Kristian Bogner, who is our photographer from Canmore, Alberta, and he as well is here, both of them, to give their insights on the new Z7 camera, as they've both been able to shoot with them over the past couple of weeks. So, you know, for those of you that aren't familiar with Michelle and Kristian, I just want to give you a little bit of bio on both of them here. Michelle is actually based out of Ottawa. She's and her work really exhibits her passion. We've seen many of your works over the course of the contact festivals. You know, your passion for Canada as well as the Arctic, and your work has graced the magazines of Canadian Geographic, and your image of the Nunavut drum dancer even appears on a special series of coins from the Royal Canadian Mint. So it's very much a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Mark. Great to be here.
And Kristian, he's a third-generation pro photographer based out of Canmore, Alberta. And he's the three-time commercial photographer of the year in Canada. He's also shot everything from the Olympic Games, extreme sports, architecture, landscape, aircrafts, and all his expeditions all over the world. So again, it is really my pleasure to have you on the program for the first time.
Thanks, Mark.
And yeah, I mean, like we've known each other for a while now, but having you two on the program, I think, is really important for not only the viewers of the show, but even me, to understand your perspectives on the new Z format, because we did a program on it last week, last Thursday actually, on the day of launch, and I did an unboxing right here. So for those of you watching this on YouTube right now, if you're watching on Facebook Live, you can also catch that episode on YouTube. But what we're going to do today is really talk to you guys about your experience with that camera, and as an added treat, we also have actual sample imagery and footage, both video and stills, from your guys' experience with that camera. So the way this is going to work, we're actually going to go through Michelle's work first, then we're going to talk to Kristian, and just somewhere in between get their you know, insights on the camera. What have you guys thought? Just, you know, kind of first impressions with the camera, you know, out of the gate.
Well, it's hard to get around the word wow. Amazing. It's so exciting, eh, Kristian? It's just such an amazing time for Nikon and for the future of photography, and to finally have our hands on a mirrorless system built by Nikon. It's fantastic.
I wouldn't often say the word game changer in photography these days, but I would say this camera is a game changer. It blew my mind, and the amount of different types of photography that I was able to get, and the shots that I got with it, and I know that I've seen that you got with it, are unbelievable. And it speaks to how great the camera is.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I mean, let's just get right into it, because I know a lot of you at home may be watching and curious, because it's going to be another month until this camera comes out. So these two individuals here have actually been part of a North American campaign in which certain professional photographers were given pre-production models of these cameras. And their assignments actually were to shoot certain things with those cameras. So Michelle, I think you want to tell a little bit about your assignment specifically?
Yeah, my assignment was wildlife. So I went down to New York and head office, and I was given the Z7 with the FTZ adapter and the 500mm PF. And that was the system that I was told I had to shoot with, and as well I could use my other lenses, like the 800mm and the 180 to 400. I used every F series lens that I had in my bag.
Well, that's interesting, because for your assignment, you weren't actually given an S-line series lens, right? You were only given the body, and that's the Z7.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So you're given the Z7. Your assignment was to shoot natively only with F mount lenses, all right, using the new FTZ adapter. So the work that we're going to be seeing here are going to be your work shot with the camera, but only with your existing f-mount lenses, right?
Yeah.
And Kristian, you were using the Z7
Z7
as well.
with the 35 1.8 S lens.
Right.
And wow, I mean, what an amazing lens. And my sort of mission was to do what I do best as a commercial photographer and shoot some sports, some commercials, some wildlife and nature, shoot some video, and literally, I think, try to put the camera through its paces in every way that I possibly could, and just see how it stacks up.
Good,
and it delivered.
good. And you were also using your current f-mount lens,
Yes,
right?
and I was using the FTZ adapter.
Okay, well, let's just get right into it, because Michelle, you said you were using the FTZ, and you mentioned the 800 millimeter. I think right now we have an example of one of the images you caught with the 800 millimeter, and this is your specialty. This is the 800 millimeter. You want to just walk us through what we're looking at here?
Yeah, well, you know, hummingbirds move awfully quick, and I thought, what better subject to try this FTZ adapter in the 800 millimeter out with, and for the autofocus and just the ability to follow these hummingbirds and look at the clarity in that incandescence
and look at that zoom in that we just saw right
that's
there.
That's an amazing shot. That's an amazing shot.
The detail that we're getting at 100% is amazing.
It is. It blew my mind. And like Kristian said, I wanted to explore all the different options and the different lenses that I use. So taking the 800 millimeter out, I was on a fishing boat at this point, so I wasn't in my kayak, which I typically go out on. And you know, for wildlife photography, you have no guarantees, right? You can't control your subjects. You can't control the animal's behavior. You don't know if the animals will actually even show up. And so I was really thrilled to have the opportunity to photograph the loons and their chicks and the feeding and the behavior. And really putting early morning, you know, testing the ISO capability, and really there with the FTZ adapter. And we've been told this, Kristian, over and over. We've been asked, you know, this word adapter, right? It's just not. It's a bad word, it seems, and people are questioning the capability, the functionality of the camera with this FTZ adapter and your f-mount lenses. And there was zero image degradation, there was zero image loss, and full functionality. And that was so impressive.
And zero play, like when you pick up that, I mean, I didn't have an 800 with the FTZ, but I had the 400 2.8, and I was able to pick that up with one hand, and there's no play. It feels, I wouldn't even call it an adapter. It feels like a coupler or when it's on the body, it's part of the body. It's amazing.
Right, so I think when you say play, there's really no give with the mount, because now you're dealing with 2 points of contact, right? And you're saying it feels like one piece. Oh, that's great to hear. And you're saying there's really no loss of not only quality but functionality. No. So I mean, actually, I'm asking you guys because you've shot with it way more even than I have, and so I'm curious to know about it too. Yeah, actually, we actually have it right here now. This one is the new 500 millimeter PF. Now this, we did the segment last week. We did the segment last week. This was not even, I think, announced yet. Well, it was, but we didn't want to steal the thunder from the Z, so we're talking about it now on Nikon TV. And this is what you had to shoot with. So we actually have some images here that were shot, I think, with that particular combination of the 500 millimeter PF. So that's the 500 millimeter PF that was announced last week. It's shrunk down. It's using the phase Fresnel element in there, so it's similar to 300 millimeter PF.
So small.
So
it's amazing.
And I photograph out of my kayak. So I chose my own backyard, which is Sharper Lake, Ontario, for my assignment. And I was able to take 10 steps out my front door and be in my kayak. And having this capability, having this system, never ever would I have thought that I would be able to take out a 500 millimeter with this powerful camera so easily and use it so beautifully. It was amazing to be able to just pull it out and be able to capture those moments.
Well, do we have some sample images right here that you can see?
Oh, the sharpness, the quickness. I mean, you're in the kayak, right? And I had a loon in front of me, or I had the raccoon that came down, or frogs, whatever the animal was in front of me. And you have to act quickly. These animals don't want to be around you.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have any interest in seeing you. They see the yellow kayak and they're, oh, okay. So you have seconds to capture this.
Now, the other thing that I just saw there, we had a frog up on, I think it looked like a lily pad, but it seemed like that, well, obviously it's a 500 millimeter, so the depth of field is very, very shallow. How did you find the experience of getting that type of focus? Because I looked at that file earlier on at full resolution, and it was tack sharp in terms of the focal plane. How's the experience been? Because this is new for you, I know, but this is the first time you've really had a full frame mirrorless system in your hands, right?
Absolutely, the first time, and also working with this 500.
Right, and I know you're typically a manual focuser with your previous DSLRs. How has the experience been now with the mirrorless camera?
Well, imagine, so that frog,
right.
I was a little, even though I was low to the ground with the kayak, I wanted to get just underneath. Okay. I don't even like frogs. I hate frogs. But anyway, it was so great because I was seeing them on their lily pads. So I just reached out, and below my kayak a little bit, I pulled out the tilt screen and used the touch focus button, and that's how I shot that, hand holding a 500 millimeter and touch focusing right outside
That's
of
amazing.
it. Right outside
with the 500.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you.
that even makes the shot cooler.
And I'm not sure. Yeah, the fact that I put it outside my kayak, I don't know, maybe. But obviously I was in shallow water and also very calm waters, and there was, but just that ability on, and I know the 850, it has this beautiful tilt screen as well, but it was the hand holding of this 500 millimeter that just blew my mind with this mirrorless.
And how did you trip the camera at that point when you're holding it down like that? Did you actually reach for the, reach for the shutter release, or you use the screen?
I use the screen.
Okay, so wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, that's essentially using all the features right there. So you were hand holding it, tilting the screen, using it to frame your subject lower than you normally would, holding it to your eye, but you also trip the shutter with the touch screen. Wow, okay, so that makes
awesome.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm really impressed with the fact that actually this is an F-mount lens now designed for small, lightweight compact carry, designed for the F-mount series, but now you've adapted it for the Z mount, so and the loss of functionality. So that's really cool. Now I think we have some other images here that we're going to show of yours from, I think that same 500 millimeters.
Yeah,
so what lens was that shot with?
That was with the 500 millimeter.
Okay.
And again, you know, the turtle is not exactly interested in having me in close proximity, and you know, shooting quickly, and look at the clarity and the fast focus. The abilities are mind-blowing, but also being able to use the EVF, and I know you're going to talk about that as well. You know, being able to be out in the changing sunlight in the early morning hours, and being able to switch your exposure and in live view. I think that just also blew my mind because of the changing light that was happening so quickly, and being able to adjust as you go right through the viewfinder, not looking at the back of your camera whatsoever, never having to take your eye off of the viewfinder.
Right, and so you felt you could do that much more so on the fly, and not have to remove your eye from the viewfinder, because what you see is what you get, I guess, from the viewfinder.
You kind of feel more connected with your subject, right? And you can get that immediate feedback, even in your white balance feedback, which is amazing. Yeah. You know, so it's really, it's I miss it already.
I know. It's all of a sudden you have to look at the back of your camera again, and you're,
we had to give our pre-productions back. Like, we miss them already.
We miss them for sure, for sure. But also, I'm not sure where we are with our photos, but being able to shoot through the viewfinder while doing video, this is a perfect segue into the next slide. I found these snapping turtles. They were massive. Yep. And they were either having a mating ritual, or else they were having a territorial fight, I guess. Wow. And being able to experience these animals through the viewfinder, in silent mode. So I felt like I had zero disturbance, and I didn't interfere with them whatsoever. But I was also able to hear the bubbles and hear their breaths and hear what was going on. And I, you know, that just, and looking through the viewfinder, I got to film this hand holding a 500 millimeter from my kayak.
And it's so stable.
Yeah.
It looks amazing.
I know.
It's amazing.
Okay, so this is hand
Wow,
holding.
that's
hand
so
holding the
impressive.
500
That
Look
is
at this,
that
look at that.
Slow-mo, yeah.
Wow.
Boom.
Cool.
You know, and it just,
Beautiful.
it allowed, I thought, first of all, it gave me a closer connection to nature, to these animals that were in front of me, but I also felt like I didn't disturb them, and I wasn't hearing the sound of the shutter. And
Right.
it was really special. It was
Okay,
really something that
so
I just
in
went,
addition
oh
to,
my
because
God.
you said the sound of the shutter, and what we were seeing right there was the video, so I think what we're going to cut to now is the actual still images that you took with it, and there you go. Okay.
Right, and it's so hard, right, Christian, when you're out there and you're like, should I be taking video? Should I be doing photos?
Right.
Should
We
I do
discussed that.
video?
You know, we were talking about that. Yeah.
But with a flick of the switch right here, so easily with your thumb, you can go from video to photos in an instant, again, without having to release, look, and you know, use the back screen, and then everything right at your fingertips, right through the viewfinder.
I did notice that when we unboxed it last week, and Christian, if you can just pass me that Z7 right there, I did notice as well that exactly what you were talking about. There's a switch at the back of the camera that is basically positioned where your thumb is. So in previous cameras, we've actually had the live view switch closer to the bottom of the camera, right? And that's where you would flick it from stills to video. Now it's right here at the top, and you can kind of blindly access it without looking, because it kind of rests exactly where your thumb would be.
But not just that. It's some feature that I've always used was the virtual horizon, because I like to get nice, clean horizon lines. And with that display button, you can flip through all your heads-up information. Like, you can flip through and see your virtual horizon. You can see your histogram. You can see all that kind of stuff right while you're shooting, and that is really, really, really useful.
Cool.
Very
cool.
useful. Yeah.
So are we, I think we're gonna take a look at a few more of your images here and see, hold on just a second, if you wanna take that right there.
Love
Just
it.
1 second, we're just gonna prime it up. Now, before we get to some of your other images here, I know what we're gonna get at. Could you tell us a little bit more about the experience that you had going from a DSLR to this? What were some of the things, some of the advantages that this provides, and how you as a professional photographer, you know, maybe would integrate this into your workflow? Maybe Michelle, you first. What do you think has been the biggest advantages of going to this system?
And I only had this in the wild. I wasn't able to shoot in the studio, but certainly the lightweight, you know, the ability to carry something like this and so powerful. Also, I think the electronic viewfinder and the silent shooting. I mean, being able to see everything live. I shoot manual, to see my exposure happening in the fly, being able to manually change anything in the moment without ever having to take your eye off of the viewfinder. There's so many pluses with this camera. And even the battery, we were both saying, you know, we were surprised about the rating that the battery was given. The first time I went out, it was very intense shooting. It was about 4 or 5 hours with the loons. It was early morning, so I was going from low light to pretty bright. I wasn't doing a lot of reviewing because everything was happening so quickly, but I fired off 1,700 frames.
1,700 frames
1,700
on
frames
how many
with
batteries?
One battery.
With one battery.
With one
And
battery.
I had the
That's curious
I had
because
I had the similar experience. I mean, I didn't count the exact frames, but I know it was well over 1,000 before I changed batteries, and it was comparable to my D850 or, you know, my Nikon cameras.
And we were hearing that from the other ambassadors
we
as
were,
well.
Yeah,
We were
so I don't know where that.
pretty
I think
impressive.
maybe if you're shooting, looking at the back screen, but I think when you're looking through the electronic viewfinder, which is a beautiful electronic viewfinder, then yeah, you don't notice, you don't use up the battery power that fast.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thanks for that insight, because I think a lot of us were curious just about that. Typically, mirrorless cameras will have more of a battery drain, given the fact that you're using the screens for basically all the time that the camera is on. And now also the in-body image stabilization. So maybe we could talk a little bit about that, because the in-body stabilization, interesting to hear your comments, Michelle, because you'd never used the S-line lenses, and those are built for 5 axis of stabilization. You are using it with the in-body stabilization on current f-mount lenses, and that's actually only 3-axis. But what I've seen from the images, and you supplied a lot of images, and I was going through them, they're all tack sharp, and you're saying you've handheld them. It seems to me that in-body image stabilization is really working well with your existing lenses. Did you use any lenses that didn't have VR in the lens? Because when you couple a camera with the lens that has VR, they're both working together.
Yeah, they work in
did you use any lenses that didn't have VR?
I used the 105.
Oh, the 105, yes,
Yeah,
the 1.4. And I think we're gonna have some examples of that, those images up there too, at some point, because I think we had it right after the snap turtles that we had up there. I think, just one second here. How are we doing, guys? Are we gonna bring up this? We just need the preview up.
Speaking of the VR, I was going to say that's I think the most mind-blowing feature for me, and I definitely have some examples after. But I mean, I found myself being able to shoot at like a 1/15th or 1/8 of a second handheld, and to be able with the S lens and actually be able to get like perfectly sharp landscape images. And I just kept going lower and lower and shooting, and then looking at it and zooming in, and it blew my mind that you could do that. And then of course video, the similar thing, and even looking at your video with the long lenses was absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, and I was shooting that with the turtles with 120 frames a second.
At 120 frames.
And I noticed that too when I put on the 400-2.8 FL lens, is that I turned off VR, you know, and you could see it moving around, and then I turned the VR on, and it was just like, it just all of a sudden locked in, looked beautifully smooth, and I thought, wow, that's something that I haven't seen before, and it was really amazing.
Corey Rich was talking about how it almost looked like he was on a gimbal when he was shooting.
Yeah,
well, he was saying, you know, Corey Rich, I mean, he's world famous at his video capabilities, and he said that half the stuff that he shot, he didn't have to use a gimbal or anything. He just shot handheld, and he was in this video that he produced for us to watch at Nikon, and it looked perfect. He said
I think it's online,
for him,
actually.
and he says absolute game changer for the amount of gear that we could bring. I mean, you know, it's to a shoot. It's fantastic.
So I mean, I've shot with the 105 as well, and I think we're gonna get a couple of shots here from what you shot just earlier this week. I think I've seen some of your postings on Instagram. You had this shot of a raccoon, I believe.
Yes, my raccoon.
If we can get that up there, could you just? You had a funny story about this.
Yeah, I'm in my kayak, and the light hasn't even come up yet, or the sunrise hasn't come up, and I'm paddling along, and I see this raccoon having his morning drink of water at the side of the lake. I paddled over. He ran up the tree. He looked at me, and within seconds, this is the shot, and it was the only shot that I fired off.
Wow!
And just again with the 500mm to be at this close a range and to be able to like fire it out of my kayak and
you nailed the expression.
He's
out of your kayak. You spend a lot of time in that kayak. That's amazing, and getting all these sharp shots.
I know.
Sneak attack.
Now the next one I want to show, I think, is now you took this with the 105. This was a portrait, I believe. You took up north. Now, do you just want to talk to us about this? This is with the 105 1.4, and this lens does not have stabilization.
Right. Well, as I said, my assignment was wildlife, but I did go up to Nunavut, and it was on a portrait assignment, so I couldn't help but take out the camera and fire off a few shots, and I just absolutely loved it. And it was interesting because she really didn't know I was shooting. So she wasn't quite sure what I was doing. So I think I was able to capture a little bit more of that expression that that maybe she wouldn't have given me if she was anticipating the click of the shutter.
I see. Okay, so this is an example of the fact that
being catch light in her eyes, beautiful.
Yeah, so that's definitely the advantage of the mirrorless. That as you just said, it actually changed the behavior of your subject. So that they gave you probably a more genuine expression than normally if they had heard that shutter. Right?
I think so. I did have a lot of time with it. You did. You had more time, so Kristian can speak much better about that. But I look forward to shooting it with it in the studio and to see what it's like to be in a portrait situation. And
it's amazing. Like one is, you know, you see this a lot of people shooting fashion or portraits, and they do this, and then they do this, and they do this, and they do this. And you know, here, I would do this, and I would review my image in camera, and then I'd look at directly and communicate with my subject. And so you feel connected to your subject, you feel connected, you don't, you know, do this sort of thing, and you're not, you know, like spending your time. And you can do that, you can zoom in. There's also a cool plus-minus button on the back of the camera. So through your viewfinder, you can just press plus, and you can check your focus really quickly, and it just becomes a new way of handling.
Yeah, you're reviewing your images. Not only are you seeing your exposure live and all your settings, but then you're reviewing your images right through the viewfinder. I never thought of that. That's right, because you're taking the camera down and you're looking at the back of the camera, and you're losing that connection with your subject.
That's interesting to hear you say that, because it's changing the behavior of the photographer as well.
Right.
Very much so.
And also to a positive way, in that you're, as you just said, you're able to engage with your subject a little bit more intimately, because you're not, I think the colloquial term is chimping.
Yeah, I was going to say it, but
looking down so
like,
often, right? Yeah. So that's great. Now, I think we're going to switch gears here now and take a look at some of your work, Kristian, that you've had the opportunity of using with this. Now, yours was experience was a little bit different, because you had the 35mm S-line lens. Now, whereas Michelle was shooting solely with f-mount lenses, you actually had the chance to experience an S-line lens. And for those of you that are still new to the new Nikon nomenclature, for the Z mount, we've created a set of new lenses, and that's the S-line series. And from Nikon's perspective, that is the top of the line of their lenses. So they've actually come out with this new series of lenses and started off with the top of the line. And as a matter of fact, while we're here, I'm just going to address something that Nikon never does, and that's deliver a roadmap of the next 3 years of lenses. And when they announced last week, it's 7 days ago today, they announced this new Z series cameras. They actually announced not only what they're bringing to the table this coming September 27th with the 3 new lenses here in 2018, but also going into 2019, they've announced, and I think we're bringing it up right now, the 58mm Noct lens 0.95. That's going to be their kind of showcase piece. But they're also coming out with, look at this, prime lenses here right out of the gates, fast prime lenses. There's a 20mm wide-angle 1.8, 85mm 1.8, a 24-70 2.8, as well as a 70-200 2.8. I know a lot of people at home comment about how the fact that they brought out a 24-70 f4, but they are coming out with a 24-70 2.8 next year. So the f4 keeps the system nice and compact. I know you only had the 35, but I'm just going to comment a little bit more about the lenses that are coming up next year as well. And they're also releasing a wide-angle 14-30 f4. And then in 2020, they're bringing out 3 lenses that they've announced thus far. And that is the 50mm 1.2. Again, with this new larger mount, they're able to create bigger apertures as well as better optics with the S-line lenses. And then there's 2 more lenses that year, I believe the 14-24 2.8. So they're literally releasing the trinity of lenses of 2.8s for the new S-line, as well as I think it's another 24mm 1.8 if memory serves. So a lot of prime lenses, wide angle, they're covering the gamut right out of the gates, going from the top. But I think we were talking about it just before this segment.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I think is so unbelievable is so the new Z mount, right? It's huge, and that's the first thing you notice, right? And what I notice playing and using the 1.8, the 35 1.8, is that it's so sharp, but it is just the bokeh and what is soft is so buttery smooth soft in a way that I've never seen before. I mean, it looks like a medium format, you know,
it does.
kind of like it does. Like
full edge to edge sharpness.
Yeah, with full edge to edge sharpness. It's unbelievable. And
now, both of you are professional photographers. I'm not making a profession off of photography, but I often like to take pictures of my food, for whatever reason that is.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by food photography. But the other day, I think you were telling me the story. You were just at breakfast.
Yeah.
And you decided to take a couple of shots with the camera that you had in hand.
I did.
And we're actually going to show you this.
I did.
For the start of your demo reel, we're going to show the shot you took care of your food. It blew you away and blew me away too. Look at this.
It did. So this is just fun because, I mean, I did shots with, very expensive studio gear, and then I did shots with window light as they brought the food out, just like one of these, right? And this is f4. And I think that there's a slide that shows how the detail, all right? So this is at f4, right? Handheld, just like this as they brought out my food, right? And then the bouquet. So what's sharp is sharp, and what is soft is just smooth, buttery, smooth, soft, in a way that it really blew me away, and it opened up my eyes to the ability, or what future lenses are going to look like, right? Yep. And I'm so excited. I think this is going to absolutely blow anything else away because of it's the size of the mount and the flange distance, the distance between the sensor and the lens, right?
Well,
that makes it's kind of that's the secret formula, and the Nikon engineers were telling us that this is sort of like they were given the task to do something that was the best optical way you could possibly do it and start from scratch, and they created the Z mount, and they did it in a way that you can marry it with the FTZ adapter, and it will still work with all your existing gear and lenses.
And also provide VR for the lenses that don't have VR.
That's right.
And you touched on a point there. Yeah. We're hitting optics that we've never been able to create before by redesigning the mount itself. So I believe that's really what's going to create these new lenses, and even bring things that for you shooting for a long time I've never really seen before in terms of the bokeh characteristics, but as well as the sharpness. We have some examples here of even some commercial shoots now you're getting on with to shoot with the camera. So
I just tried to mix it up, and I did a little bit of everything, as you'll see through these slides. And I just wanted to do something like photographing a bottle, but when you actually take a look at it, I mean, it's so easy to shoot with, but then when you actually look at the detail, it's really blown my mind, just the detail of this camera. I mean, I'm looked at your images as well, and they're just, like your hummingbird. I mean, the detail is something. I don't know why it seems like it's comparable to other cameras in the resolution, megapixels, but there's something more. I think there's something really there with the VR on the sensor, that there's absolutely no shake in your shots, and so it just looks that much sharper.
Now, did you shoot that shot with the bottle with which lens was that?
That was the 7200.
Oh, 7200
VR,
cool.
Yeah. Just so I shot some with this as well, but it was a bit wide for something like a commercial shot like that.
So the bottle. Now I think the next image we're going to see here is a more wide-angle image. Yep. Again, so what lens
this would
did
be,
you shoot this car with?
This is 1424 here. And yeah, I mean, it's so sharp and it's so detailed. And this one, I used 3 SB5000 flashes, to sync from the camera and control from the camera. I just had them down alongside the Porsche, and I just got some beautiful, beautiful detail of it. I mean, it's so easy to shoot with. And the other thing that I do, because I love switching to black and white, and I love using picture controls, and I have some other examples of that later on, but I'll switch right away to black and white, and then when you look through the electronic viewfinder, you're seeing exactly how it's going to look in your final product.
So was that black and white shot there done in camera?
That was done in camera, absolutely.
In camera monochrome picture.
Did you play with any of the other picture controls, like the sepia?
I did.
Yeah. Do you have any examples?
Yes, I do.
We do have some examples of that later.
I didn't know that.
No, it's good. It's good. I love it because I love the picture controls, and this is something that, and the way that you guys have done, there's a lot of new things. Including, I'll just say, mid-tone sharpening, right, which is a new thing in the picture control settings, and that really took me a little bit of kind of getting to know. But wow, does that make a difference when you're shooting like a person's face, and you can adjust the sharpening of the skin, or you can adjust different details. But here's an example right here. So this was one of, there are many new picture control settings. And I don't know the exact number, but I would say there's around 30-ish of them.
Right.
And you can go in, you can pick one of these picture controls, you can reduce the effect of it, so it's kind of like almost like an Instagram filter, if you will, and you can do that all right in camera, which is.
And you're seeing it right
and
overlaid.
You're seeing it live.
Yeah.
You're seeing it as you shoot through electronic viewfinder, right?
I thought that, for me anyways, I think I squealed when I saw that. When I saw that feature.
It's cool. It's amazing.
I'm sure you did too.
It's amazing.
I know you like to do a lot.
Well, because you know,
camera.
I've been used to seeing all the same, you know, 6 picture controls through all the cameras. I mean, it's great, you can tweak it, and there's a picture control utility where you can further tweak it with curves, but now you have these really elaborate type of filters that, you know, we've seen on Instagram, and we've seen presets in Lightroom, but to be able to do it in camera and do it with what we just saw there with the picture of Sarah, I'm really excited about that, because usually I don't do a lot of posts, so I'm always doing the picture controls in camera, and having access to those is really exciting for me anyways.
Well, and Jared Jonas on the rooftop was shooting in sepia, and he was showing it. It was a different sepia than
he was
I've
fading
ever
it
seen
back,
before.
so he was doing sepia picture control, but he was probably doing it 30%. So you got this golden glow to all your images. It was amazing, and he loved it. So I think this is going to be a huge thing. And also the user functions, which we didn't mention, but you can take, if you something you really like, you can set it to a user 1, 2, and 3 and have that all locked in a specific function now, which is really slick. Cool.
All right, we're going to move on, because, you know, in living in Canmore, Alberta, you obviously have access to a lot of beautiful landscapes here. So we're going to go cut to a couple of the landscape shots that you've shot.
You know, I mean, you know, the other thing, I love big color, and to be able to get great color that, like, right out of the camera, you know, just by increasing your saturation and your controls, that's really amazing. I think the other thing, this slide here.
Let's talk about this one specifically.
So this one specifically, I wanted to see how good this this VR on the sensor really was. So I kept going lower and lower and lower, and I got to 1/8 of a second, and I was zooming in, and it blew my mind that I could go that low and get a perfectly tack sharp image handheld. But then I did what you did. I decided that there wasn't, you see the reflection in the water, I wanted more reflection. So how am I going to do that? I went right down, I flipped the screen up, went right down to the water, so I was practically touching the water, and handheld it. This is at 1/60th of a second, and then I did some at a 15th of a second too, and it's perfectly sharp. So yeah, to be able to do this, I mean, to be able to shoot tripodless and trust the, you know,
and go for the long hikes and be able to walk
and get the details. What we just saw there, we just zoomed in, right? So
Absolutely.
I think what our viewers didn't just see you do there off camera is that you tilted the screen, and you did what Michelle did off the kayak. You put it down like that to achieve the shot with more reflection, to get more of the mountains in the shot. So again, another practical thing that you were able to do with that. Did you trigger it with the touch screen as well?
Just my hand,
but
I could have probably did the touch focus too.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, and
Beautiful.
yeah, and for video, same thing, right? You know, you can get low like that and actually hold it steady. Amazing.
Yeah.
That's cool. And when I was out there last, a few years ago, you introduced us to some bikers out there. One of them, Paul Kerfoot, I think.
Paul Kerfoot. He's always been a big Nikon fan. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He's a mountain biker, and you do a lot of, as I introduced you earlier, a lot of extreme sports and things like this. And having known you for a lot for your extreme sports, of course, you're an expert in kind of capturing, you know, fast action and things like that. I think a lot of people at home would really like to get your insight on how this new camera performs. It's a completely new design with capturing fast action. And what the example we're going to show here is not only fast action, but fast action with flash.
Yeah.
So walk us through this shot here that you just posted the other day with
well, I wanted to use a little flash because we've got some fires going on right now, and so the light's been, you know, you couldn't count on sort of the sunlight, and I wanted to really freeze the action, and I found the autofocus worked absolutely amazingly. I would, you know, this was a blind jump, so I focused on the edge of the jump, and then I was able to focus on the edge of the jump. As soon as I saw Paul come into frame, I would autofocus on him, and I would follow him, and I would hold and get the perfect shot with flash. I had 4 SB 5000s on a cluster on a light stand to give a little bit. But I also love shooting the sports stuff with the new high extended autofocus mode, and I found I get a crazy fast frame rate. And with the XQD cards, it just seemed to like go and go and go, you know, and then it would it writes so fast to the card that it would just refresh quickly, and I could just go again. So I was amazed that the throughput of this, is it the XSpeed 6 sensor or XSpeed 6 processor? It's fast.
Beautiful. And because you've shot with, I guess, with the D850 as well with the battery grip, so you've shot the 9 frames per second. Here you can do it natively just in the camera.
And I'm used to, I have a D5 and 2 D850s, and I like the grip, I like the bigger camera. This doesn't feel, it's 25% smaller and lighter, and it feels great in my hands. It doesn't feel like a small camera.
Right, right.
It feels like a pro camera that just can fit in your bag a lot easier.
Again, we're going to shift gears here. It's kind of like you're kind of like a cross-trained photographer. You have many different disciplines. The next couple of images that we're going to see here, I think, exemplify the sharpness and resolution. But you actually took it kind of in the, we'll call it the studio setting here, and you've had a couple of really edgy shots here with lighting. You want to just walk us through this, Kristian?
Well, this is where, you know, I mean, the detail blew me away again. And I built a rain machine. So I took a PVC pipe and put sprinkler heads on it and a fog machine. And this is a friend of mine who's was a monk and a martial artist. Anyway, I've been wanting to photograph him for a long time. And I said, I have this new camera. I need to photograph you with it. And he let me. And I mean, just the detail is mind-blowing, and the ability for the camera to autofocus through the rain as well, which was also very difficult. And yeah, it was really, really phenomenal. Such a fun shoot to do, and I left that rain setup up for about the whole time I had the camera. I did a few cool different shoots with it with the camera.
I think we even have some behind-the-scenes footage of you. With the setup. So actually you're using bronze color there.
Yeah, so I've got a Scoro S pack with 3 lights, and I've got my nice Para 133 up there, and I was using it with a high-speed trigger. So the actual black and white one that we saw, I was shooting at 1/1000th of a second. So, and I didn't have to do anything with the camera. I just put it on there, switch it to FP, and the camera was able to integrate with my studio lights, no problem, and allow me to shoot high speed, which was amazing.
Beautiful, and I think we have a couple more examples here of, I think this is your wife, Sarah.
It is, my beautiful wife. I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky.
Look at the smile on him.
Yeah.
So again, some great lighting there, but also the detail that we're seeing here. Now, can you tell us if you remember what lens you were using in this?
Yeah, this would be the 105 1.4 as well. Okay. So, which is, I mean, the portrait lens, really. I mean, it's incredible, and yeah, it picks everything up, looks beautiful, and it's so sharp. This one I love though. She didn't want to get wet, and so I came up with the idea to go to the dollar store and buy a clear umbrella, and it worked. And what I did, which is really cool in this shot, is I dragged the shutter, and I remember I was shooting at 1/80th of a second, and because what I wanted was I wanted to freeze the water droplets with the flash, but I wanted there to be some drag in the water droplets with the ambient light that was there, and I put a purple gel in the light, and so I actually created this really cool effect, which I think is really quite beautiful.
Well, I thought I saw that with the martial artist as well, right?
Some of them I dragged it a little bit, a little bit, really but not as much as I dragged it with the purple gel.
And here's some behind the scenes of that, because what we're seeing right now is not only, well, we saw some still images here, but in a second we're also going to see the evidence of, I think, the video that you also took with this as well.
And that's my rig with a Ronin gimbal and my Adamus Ninja monitor, and I'm one thing which is really cool, this camera can do 4K focus peaking. Actually, you might have used this or maybe not, but when you have focus peaking on, when you switch to manual, which I know you focus manually a lot, you can use the focus peaking, and all of a sudden you can see red or yellow or whatever color you want to make it, Nikon yellow or whatever you want to, which is really cool.
It's fantastic.
So Michelle, are you using the manual focusing a lot now with that focus peaking, or are you now using some of the autofocus features?
I was using primarily autofocus just to get myself used to the system and trying it out, and I still love to manually focus. I don't know, it's just in me.
Good for you. Good for you.
Well, awesome. Speaking of that, how did you find the manual focus now with the EVF? Were you utilizing it without the peaking or with the peaking when you would do?
I did both. Okay. Yeah, and then to be told you're in focus.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, okay, being nice.
Told. Oh my God.
Nailed it. I know.
It takes away the guesswork there. Okay. Now, I think we have some footage here of, so we saw the behind the scenes, but now we're going to see the actual footage created from that.
And what's really cool is to be able to shoot 120 frame per second, 1080p, and then you can do speed ramping like I did a little bit here, where you kind of slow it down, speed it up, you can, do all that kind of stuff. And also you can get beautiful footage and slow it down like your wildlife stuff, which really shows I don't know, just the beauty of it, right? It sort of slows down the moment.
Yeah, and you want to slow. I want to slow things down, and you actually see things that you don't see with your eye because everything happens so quickly. So I'm in love with that slow mo, as I was with the D850. I just love slowing everything down and being able to look at it.
And we saw those images, the footage that you shot in slow-mo, but I think, Kristian, yours is different because you're using the 120 straight up, right? And then slowing it down yourself.
Yes, it's a new feature. So you have
brand new feature.
So which is really cool. And the other thing with the focus on the S lenses is that it's got electronic focus ring. So you can actually set the characteristics of how the focus works. And so you can set it up so it's super slow and buttery. And also you have the phase detect autofocus, right? So maybe you can talk about that, but it just goes smoothly right to the focus point versus jumping around, which is like, I mean, again, for video, it's a game changer.
Well, from Nikon's line, they've never had a camera like this that could do video and focusing like this. And the thing, you walked into our office yesterday and you showed us this particular clip that we're about to see here with the cat. I couldn't believe the way this held focus here. And we're gonna play this a couple of times because people are just so that they can appreciate what they're seeing here. What frame rate were you shooting?
So I'm shooting 120, right? So I could slow it down. And I basically just set up and I told it to track the subject and I put it on, I mean, this is a gray cat on a grayish, wooden railing. And I just said, okay, track that subject. And I had my gimbal on that you saw and I just walked backwards and it just kept it in perfect tracking. It was amazing.
So you used the subject tracking where you hit the okay. And it would track the cat. I was wondering how you do that because
it's good.
There's
it's
face
really good.
detection on the camera, but you wouldn't use, I guess, the face on a cat.
No,
but you could.
Cat.
I tried the face detection too, and it works great too. But with the cat,
yeah,
I really like that track. And the tracking also works for any subject. You can put it on because what if you don't want their eyes? What if you want their backpack or something like that? Right? It works really good. Yeah.
This is, I mean, this was a Cool Pics feature that we had for many years now. And I'd never use it because the Cool Pics system is not as smooth as this system. So even though it would track from side to side, I didn't feel I had the security that it was following the depth, like until I just saw that footage.
And this is, I mean, I'm moving, it's moving, and it's just like,
wow,
I mean,
that's right.
It's
You're
amazing.
moving too, so there's a lot of calculations that it has to do.
It's a lot.
Sorry, which lens was that with again?
That was with this one, with the S lens,
35.
with the 35, and it looks great. So, and I think even having a little bit of time with the new zoom lens, I think these lenses are going to be for video are just going to be the cat's meow.
Well, and the fact
no pun intended.
And I think that
well
you hit it as well. That all your speed lights, everything worked with the
everything. Yeah, I mean, I picked it up. We had no time, right? We did a lot of stuff in like less than 2 weeks, right? Each, right? And so we had no time to shoot, no time for missed shoots, right? We had to go, and every time it performed. But then when you look at the results of both of our staff, it's like for the amount of time that we had to shoot, I feel like every shoot we did, we just nailed it, but that says a lot about the performance of what the camera can do.
Yeah, you've definitely pulled out a lot of content there. Just one question. So that umbrella was $1?
Yeah, well, something $1 or $2 in Canmore probably. It's probably like $2 in Canmore, but
he's gonna go to the dollar store next.
But it was good. It was good.
In Alberta, they have no tax.
I sent my beautiful wife, and she got it. So I was grateful. She came back with a yellow one and a
black one, right? Black and yellow.
No,
NikonTV.
for Nikon, but the clear one looked really cool. I liked it. I liked it.
So, okay.
And the gel.
I'm heading over to Dollarama. Okay. Tell you what, guys, we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to take some of your questions. Hopefully, you guys have submitted some. We'll be back with Kristian and Michelle in about 90 seconds. Okay. Okay, guys, we're back, and before we get to your Q&A, we're gonna play a little game here with Kristian and Michelle using, I thought it would be cool, the new Nikon Z series strap. So Nikon has always had the same strap, same design forever and ever and ever now, and with these new straps, we're gonna play a little game of Cruz versus, I think it's what it's called now, because it's gonna be up to Kristian and Michelle to see if they can guess what Nikon item is in their hands, okay? So I'm gonna give them an item. I'm not gonna tell them what it is, okay? But they have, I'm gonna time it, okay? They have 30 seconds
Did you know about this?
to guess what it is. So I'm gonna put it in both of your hands at the same time. Okay, so bear with me here, okay? So extend your hands out and don't drop it, okay?
Oh no.
I know, right?
But, you know,
That'd be bad.
here we go. All right, so I'm gonna, and by the way, I'm gonna do this with myself after. So fair game, fair play, okay? So Michelle, yours is first, and Kristian, yours is next.
Whoa.
So all you can do is feel around of what this lens or whatever it is, and you have 30 seconds
200 to
starting
500.
now.
7200
Hold on a
FL.
second, just a second here. I'm giving you time.
200 to 500.
I'm giving
200,
you
yeah.
time.
I
Okay.
beat you.
I said it right after you said it.
One sec here. Because in about 10 seconds, I'm going to ask you, is it your final answer? And you don't have any lifelines here, okay?
No
so
lifelines.
you got to make sure that it is what it is, all right? So here we go, kids. 10, 9, 8, 7,
I
6,
got this.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Let's see if Michelle really knows her stuff. So without taking your blindfold off, Michelle, what do you have in your hands?
200 to 500.
200 to 500. Okay. Yes, you are correct. Yes. Okay, so the best you could do.
Yay!
You get.
Do I get to keep it?
The clap track. Okay, no, what you get to do is you get to remove your blindfold is what you get to do, okay?
Okay, good.
So at this point, the best you can do is time me because I'm going to get mine correct. Okay, so Kristian.
7200.
200. Okay, well, you got to be a little bit more specific than that.
I'm going to say it's the FL.
You want to say, or are you going to say?
I'm saying it's the FL.
It's the FL. Okay, remove your blindfold, my friend.
Oh, I knew it.
The look of
you
disappointment.
That was a trick. That was a trick.
Oh my goodness.
That was a trick.
I thought
that was like
the
a trick.
function buttons would be a dead giveaway.
Right.
Hey, fair play.
You're right. You know what? I was feeling the dials, and you're right. I did feel a little bit. I thought they wouldn't give me the old lens.
Right. I also thought the little bit more stiffness in the zoomer would have given it away.
You're right.
Right? So, okay, fair play. Now at this point, I'm gonna do the thing here and take the strap and blindfold myself, okay? And one of you is gonna put in my hands.
To your right.
Okay. Hold on. I gotta do this Daniel LaRusso style right now. Give me a second. I gotta make sure mine is.
You go.
Okay.
Fair play. All right. In my hands, and you guys can start the countdown now. Okay.
10, 9,
8, 7, 6, 5.
I thought I had 30 seconds.
3,
2. No peeking.
1.
Okay.
Ding, 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 ding.
I got this, kids. But here's the thing, okay? Every other lens, okay, of this shape. There's so many lenses of this shape and size that it would be hard to figure out exactly what it is. Of course, there's a manual focus ring, and there's also a zoom ring.
You're stalling.
No, I had 30 seconds. You only give me 10. But this is the dead giveaway here. This is a hood. It's one of only, I think, none that have the pinch here, okay? And it has the perforated edges. So this means it has to be the 55 to 300 DX, okay? And that is my final answer.
Wow. Good job.
Very impressive.
Good job.
Cruz won.
I like
Valberg won. Bogner, the goose egg. Okay. Okay. Sorry. but that's the way it is. All right.
Okay.
All right. So I'm just
easy
gonna put
one.
that down there.
I like our door prizes. This is nice. Huh?
Yeah. No.
Oh.
No. All right. We are gonna get to some of your questions here, folks. So thanks again for being with us tonight. And bear with me here as I gotta sift through them.
Got it?
All right, so. Ooh-wee. Aha, okay, here we go. So, question here from Rob, and he asks, I guess any of us can answer here. Usually it's just me on the program, so I answer.
You answer.
The question from Rob is, when you're using the adapter, do you lose any functionality? And, you know, given what I've said last week and reading off the specs, no functionality, but again, just hearing it from you two professional photographers that have used it actually more than I have, you guys are saying there's no functionality loss.
Absolutely
right?
none. Absolutely none. And no image loss quality. And image quality loss. Absolutely none.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I saw the picture you took of the woman in Nunavut, right? And I looked at that up close, and there's no image quality loss. It even looks sharper now. But no focal. I think a lot of people are wondering at home, no focal length loss or f-stop loss. So I think a lot of people are curious about how much if they're losing any light through there. But if you pick up the adapter,
do we have the?
where did the adapter
where did the Z
go?
go?
It's somewhere around here. Oh yeah, okay.
Do you have the 1.8 one?
There we go. So we do have.
And then compare it to the adapter. So I mean, you can just look at the thickness of this, right? You know what I mean? And then when you have the FTZ adapter on there, right? It's like the same thickness, same distance, the same thickness as this. Yeah. Michelle holds that one. We can compare. Right. So with the FTZ, it's sort of like the same distance from
the flange distance. So all the FTZ is doing is effectively extending the flange distance to mirror an F-mount camera. There's actually no glass inside. It is not like a teleconverter. It is just an extender. And but what some people might be thinking is they're thinking maybe of extension tubes. And extension tubes, for people that want to use, say, the regular lenses to take macro shots, it can extend that distance. But what you're losing is in the focus. You won't be able to focus at infinity. So with this new FTZ mount adapter, you have full focus. You can focus at infinity. Thanks, Christian. And you see there's nothing in there. There is no glass, so you aren't losing any light through the optics. But the cool thing is you can focus at infinity. You can focus the minimum focusing distance, and you have the full viewing angle of whatever focal length of lens you're using. So that is really something right there. And actually, I was really shocked about the price of this thing, relatively speaking, here in Canada. So I'm really happy about that. Thank you again for that question, Rob. We're going to go to a question now from Erin, and she asks, does it have built-in Wi-Fi to my phone? I can answer that question. Yes, it does. It has built-in Wi-Fi as well as Bluetooth to your phone or tablet. But what's cool about this camera now is it also has Wi-Fi to your laptop without having to buy an extra adapter. And I don't know, Michelle, if you've ever had to purchase those adapters in the past. I know you have, Christian, to wirelessly tether to your laptop. But they can be at times add extra bulk, add extra expense. But this now has it built right into the camera system, so we're really looking forward to that. Next question is from Linda, and this one is actually specifically for you, Christian. She asks, if you had the choice between only one camera to use, what would it be? Whoa, okay, so
that's a tough one. That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Linda's putting you on the spot.
Well, I mean, listen, for me, my DA50 is going to still be in my bag along with the Z7, but if I had one camera, after what I've experienced now, I mean, because of the VR on the sensor and because of the focus peaking, I would choose the Z7 really. I mean, and I thought I wasn't going to like the electronic viewfinder because I just, you know, I've looked through other electronic viewfinders and not liked them at all. And I love this electronic viewfinder. It is. I understand it's got ED glass in there. It is
there's
really
actually a sequence of elements inside of the electronic viewfinder to improve the clarity.
It is really, really clear and sharp, and I can see. I have no problem seeing my subject whatsoever.
Did you find, how long did it take you to get used to the electronic viewfinder?
Oh man, like, I mean, a half hour, an hour to be completely used to it, and now I picked up my D850 and was like, oh geez, I miss it. I miss it already. I mean, which has really surprised me. I was against electronic viewfinder, and now I'm a believer.
I'm a believer.
Okay, so you actually would, if you had one shot at it.
I would. Because look at that. I can use it for all of my commercial stuff, all of my sports stuff, all of my wildlife and video, everything. I mean, on every level, and it's smaller and lighter weight. You know, when I go on hikes, everything. It's just so. I mean, I think it's got to be one of the most versatile cameras available today.
Well, I mean, you're both professional photographers. I mean, I guess this question was directed to you specifically, Kristian, but you're both professional photographers. And what that means is you're not, I believe it's not only the features of the camera that you're looking for, but it's also the reliability and dependability to get the job done. And I guess with these cameras now, I mean, you feel you can confidently get the job done.
We did. We got the job done in 2 weeks.
We did.
Beautiful.
And it's weather sealed like a D850, and it's solid. It feels solid. It's small, but it is solid and rugged. Like I have no qualms taking it.
Everybody said it at the summit that it felt like a Nikon when we picked it up. It felt like a Nikon. It worked like a Nikon, and all the menus, everything were familiar. So there wasn't that time to get used to. For me, it was also the electronic viewfinder. I had a little bit of time to get used to that. Once I did, now I miss it.
Yeah.
Really? So you too, you miss it. Okay.
I miss it.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's taken away from us.
I know.
It's just like, oh,
well,
okay,
yeah, I think 1 more month it'll be.
That's right.
Yeah,
we can't wait. We're counting the days, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
I think we got time for one more question. This one's from Daniel to Michelle. Actually, this is for you specifically, Michelle. He asks, what was your favorite lens combination with the Z7 body?
Probably for wildlife, it had to have been this new 500.
Oh, okay.
Shooting this prime and having, I just hold it like this because it's so hard to believe that you can pick up a 500 millimeter and you could have this combination. I used to take my 200 to 500 into the kayak. It was what I was most comfortable with. Now having this, I would, without a doubt, this would be my go-to for sure.
Wow. Did you ever use it with a monopod or a tripod, that lens?
No, I didn't.
Not, so the entire time you had it, it was just handheld?
Handheld. The only time I used a tripod was with the 800.
With the 800. Wow. Unbelievable.
That's amazing.
Even the 180 to 400, that black, the Heron, the 180 to 400, absolutely no problem. And early morning light, so I didn't have a whole lot of light, and that was the 3200 ISO as well.
Wow. Yes, and we didn't talk about that much, but I mean the ISO, I mean, it's so tight.
Yeah. And that's one of the biggest questions I get anyway. It was ISO capability, and it did not disappoint.
Cool. Okay. Now, I said one more question, but we just had one come in from someone called Stevie D. And he asks, why only one card slot? So this is one of the questions that have been asked for a while now. I mean, since the camera's come out, it's been out for about 7 days, and I know this has been cause for a lot of concern for people, the single card slot. And just from a technical perspective, I kind of know why Nikon has done it. I'll give you guys a chance to speak on it in a second, but I know specifically from the engineering point of view, this camera system is really built from the ground up. And what I mean by that is this mount system is probably, they say, is going to last the next 100 years. I mean, if it's anything like the F mount, which has been around since, I believe, 1959, this is going to basically dictate the way future lenses are made. And by doing so, the real important factors were the measurement of the flange distance, which was 16 millimeters, a minuscule 16 millimeters. And we've talked about the advantages that brings to image quality. And last week, I don't know if I actually mentioned it, but that minimal flange distance, as well as the diameter of the mount itself, which is 55 millimeters, allows us to get much better image quality, as well as much better image quality, as well as edge-to-edge sharpness. So, having said that, I think the reason that Nikon really kind of did that was to get that flange distance shorter. But speaking to you guys now, what do you think is, does it matter to you guys that there's one card slot?
For me, it doesn't matter whatsoever. Once you actually pick up this camera and feel with it, I mean, I've been using XQD now on my D4, on my D4S, on my D5, on the 850. I've had perfect experience with the D5. The way I look at it is that the XQD cards, they're so fast. They're as fast as an SSD drive. And when I have my MacBook Pro, I don't put I don't worry about having 2 SSD drives in my MacBook Pro. I just rely on it. And when you're shooting 128 gig cards and sometimes shooting a terabyte in a day on a shoot, right? Then if you were doubling up on that, that just seems, I've never done it, so it really doesn't affect me at all.
Yeah, it hasn't been a game changer for me, or an issue at all. I shoot with 256 cards, and I would rather the performance and what this camera is capable of than having 2 slots. It takes 5 seconds to take a card out and change it. And really, if you're just thinking and realizing where you're at with your frame rate, then you change your card. It's just, it hasn't been, and I understand that a lot of people use it for backup and the second card slot, but we went through the beginnings of, we also went through film stage, but also the first few digital cameras didn't have 2 card slots. So, but I understand it's important to other people, but for me and for Kristian, as he said, it's just not a game changer at all.
And I think you can also shoot RAW and JPEG, right? Or you can, and then this way, your JPEG is another, if there's something were to happen, which has never happened to me in my entire career, if it were, then you have a little bit of a backup on that card that you could recover. So, it doesn't really
It is a hot topic.
It is a hot topic.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not discounting the utility for second card slot. Obviously, we've had them for a few cameras now, but it seems, from you guys, it seems to be somewhat of a non-issue.
But I think going XQD only versus XQD SD, then you have this very robust, SSD-like drive that's inside your camera.
Yeah, and you're not slowed down by a slower SD card either.
That's right.
And there's just so much performance from this camera that outweighs that one, for me, and
me too,
Kristian
100%.
as well.
Yeah.
So it outweighs.
Well, we met some of the engineers in New York, which was a really cool experience. And the way I understand it, they were given a clean slate to basically design the very best mirrorless camera they could. And it sounds like everything that they put into this camera has been really, really exacting. You know what I mean? And it has a reason. And I think that reason is there to get us a lighter, smaller, thinner camera.
Well, you guys have been using XQD cards for a while now because you both shot D850, right? And well, I think you both shot D5 and the D5 and D4 because with the so the D4S and that had XQD with compact flash, but the D5s that you shot, was that both XQD because it only came exclusively? Okay, so you've been using XQD cards for a while, and you obviously know the advantages.
I mean, they're so fast. I can transfer a XQD card, a 128 gig card, in less than 6 minutes, which is comparable speed to what an SSD drive is.
Okay, you're talking about transferring it right to your computer. Yeah. So there's even advantages of transferring it to your computer.
They're fast.
And not just the writing speed of
the
camera.
And when you're on an expedition and you may only have, solar panels to charge your computer, being able to transfer a card in 6 minutes versus half an hour could be a big difference in whether or not you get to retain and have a backup.
Okay, that's... You just threw something at me there that I didn't even think of. It's the speed at which it does it. And when you're in those situations where you're running off of battery power, every second counts. Because literally, I remember that expedition you went to, I think, to the Arctic.
Antarctica.
Oh, sorry, it was
minus
down
65,
south. Okay,
and I had to... Yeah, and I had solar panels I had to carry in the whole bit, and so every bit of juice was important.
Oh gosh, that didn't even come to my mind. Yeah, all I'm thinking about is speed, and then I'm thinking about the news and press guys that need to file right away.
Totally.
But
them too, right? Absolutely.
Them too. But you're actually putting it in a situation where you might be low on battery power that could just run your operation. So. And having that faster card is good too. Okay, well, I mean, obviously some advantages that you guys have shown with that new card format, and I know it's kind of an exclusive right now for Nikon cameras, has been for the last couple of years, but it's nice to hear that meant something to your overall workflow.
And the CFast cards are going to be...
Yes. Oh, or CF Express, I believe. Yes, CF Express. That's a good point, because it seems like the future of the XQD card is actually going to evolve into what they've already announced is going to be a faster card, and I think they mentioned something like 1,400 megabytes per second writing speed.
And the faster the card writes and reads, the less likely there's going to be a file error, because it writes fast. That's the secret of getting cards that don't fail on you, is that having that speed, you know, and it's got it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, and I know you do a lot of work with, you know, maybe even both of you, fast frame rates. So you are using that throughput to the maximum, because
well even the buffer, as the buffer fills up, especially as you're shooting such large files, right? I mean, the buffer does get used up, but then it keeps getting refreshed because the XQD write is so fast.
Imagine with the new card as well.
Well, exactly, even faster. So it's going to mean like almost an unlimited feeling of buffer, right, in the future. So it's very future-proof.
Well, I mean, I just thought about this right now. This is a 45.7 megapixel file coming at you at 9 frames per second in RAW. So, I mean, I don't think we've ever had that apart from the D850 without the battery grip. Yeah, exactly. So this is a tremendous amount of data going at very, very fast speeds with the new X-Speed 6 processor. You need something so it doesn't bottleneck on you, and that's what it gives you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do we have any more questions, guys, on the Facebook front? No, I think we are good. You have one. Go ahead.
Can I take this?
Oh my gosh! It will be yours soon enough. Soon enough. Once
I can't wait.
Yes, absolutely.
What an honor, eh?
Oh my gosh! Absolutely. It's been a real honor, and just being part of this, you know, like
amazing team.
Yeah, Nikon team, and just the quality of. I mean, for us. We're pro photographers, right? And so for us to have, you know, this gear, it's not, you know, it's not for anything other than the fact that it gives us the ability to create better and easier than ever before.
Exactly, and to be more creative.
Yeah.
Right. Allow us to be even more creative, if that's possible.
Yeah. Exactly.
Imagine. I mean, that's what's so exciting for us.
And we're just thrilled to have the opportunity to be able to utilize such incredible gear like this, and. You know, and way to go, Nikon, for something that I think is going to be a real game changer.
Yeah,
you know?
Thank you, Nikon, for giving us this amazing opportunity.
Would you like to tell folks at home how they can see more of your work, Michelle?
I'm posting a lot on Instagram as Christian, so Michelle Valberg Photography, and my website I haven't updated yet because we're just fresh back from New York City. So michellevalberg.com, but I'm on Facebook as well under Michelle Valberg Photography. So I'm just going to keep pumping out the images that I can, because I want to show the world. I want to show everyone. Look at what we've got coming forward.
We can't wait. And you, Christian?
Same thing. I mean, I'm going to try to pump them out too. I mean, we probably have enough for the next month of just, you know, Z7 images. So same thing. My Instagram, Kristian Bogner, and my website,
Christian with a K.
KristianBogner.com. So yeah, KristianBogner and .com. Yeah, and so good. So good.
Well, thanks both of you for joining us, and thanks for playing our little game here.
I'm going to do better next time. I'm going to do better next time, yeah.
I still got one up on you. All right, guys, so thanks for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure to have the insights of both Christian and Michelle for this episode of Nikon TV. We will see you next time on Facebook Live. Take care.